Hello, and how are you? So, new year, new language, new look. I guess this is my motto for this week. So, if we look at this area in the circle here, the country called Papua New Guinea, so you can kind of see relatively where Papua New Guinea is located compared to other countries. The Philippines, Indonesia is here, Australia, you've got Kiribati, you've got the Solomon Islands. Now, this area is extremely linguistically diverse. There are many, many, many languages. Not all of them are from the same family. So we're going to take a look at the Austronesian languages that are spoken in the area, specifically around here. So these are called the Trobrian Islands. Just to give an idea of what we're talking about, there are something like 40 different Austronesian languages spoken all across this area alone, and in many parts of coastal New Guinea as well. The interior of New Guinea, people speak languages belong to other language families, all of them lumped together as Papuan. So let's just focus on the Austronesian languages of the area, specifically the language of the Trobrian Islands, also known as Kilivila or Kiriwina. You can hear both pronunciations. Some interesting features about this language. So this is the very old photo from the islands. Bronisław Malinowski was an anthropologist who wrote a lot about their culture. I'm not going to go talk about anthropology and sociology today, but just about linguistics. So we're going to look at the languages of the language specifically spoken on the Kilivila Islands. So a little bit, some facts about it. So this language is spoken specifically in southeastern Papua New Guinea. And of course, there are more than 40 other Austronesian languages in the area. There are about 20,000 speakers, roughly, and quite unusual for the area. The language, the Kilivila language, has a verb-object-subject or subject-verb-object word order. The other languages, the other Austronesian languages, because they've been influenced by Papuan languages, they have a subject-object-verb word order. It's a little bit different. And we'll look at some of the words and similarities between Kilivila and, say, the typical Austronesian languages that you find in Indonesia, the Philippines, all the way across to Polynesia. Let's see, let's do some comparisons. Okay. Now, some simple words that you might recognize or might not recognize because of sound changes. If we start from the top, your top left, the word buala. So buala is the word for house. And you might think of it as, okay, it doesn't sound like anything I know, but it does. It is related to balai in Malay. In Malay, balai is a public building. It doesn't have to be a house for one person. It's a public house for meetings. That's a balai. And then your balai or bahai in Cebuano and Tagalog. And of course, the Polynesian languages, vale, fale, fare, hale. That all means house. Okay. That's the word buala in Kilivila. All right. Another word that we want to look at is the word for sugarcane, tou, which is, of course, in Taiwan, many of the languages there, they say something like chavus or tebu in Malay, tubu, tubo, undovu in Fijian. I don't know if this word got passed along into the Polynesian languages, for example, further east into Hawaii, Tahiti, Hawaii, but in Fijian it's undovu. That's the word for tebu in Malay, sugarcane. All right. Another word that we want to look at that is interesting is the word for valu. Can you guess what valu is? So valu is the word for village, and it's related to the word benua in Malay, banua, vanua in Fijian, and in Polynesian languages, fenua, honua, all that is it literally it means depending on the region, it can be, and the language, it can be village, it can be land, it can be continent, it can be environment, it can be the sky, like a huge place where people live in. So depending on language, but that's actually the word, the same word, vanua, okay, or valu, vanua. All right. Now we go back to this one, and we look at the word waga, which you might recognize. Waga means canoe or boat, and you can find it in many Polynesian languages, wanga, vaka, va'a, waka, and wa'a, all across the Pacific, people use this. And I think it's even related to bangka in Malay, Indonesian, right? I suspect it's the same word. So going back again. And another word related to the sea. Often Austronesian languages are very stable when it comes to ocean-related vocabulary. The word for sail is naya. Naya. So, that's layar in Malay, a sail, layag in the Philippine languages, lai in Malagasy. In Malagasy, lai can also mean a tent, probably because the tent is made from canvas material like a sail. Latha in Fijian, and la or ra in the different Polynesian languages. You see how closely, quite similar sounds they still retain after so long. And then other interesting things, another one, oh yes, you might recognize this one. This is guita or buita, which means octopus. So in Malay, you have gurita or gurita. Gurita is more common in Malaysia. Gurita is more common in Standard Indonesian. But anyway, it's the same thing. Pugita in Tagalog, right? And guita in Fijian. So that's another animal that has remained vocabulary that's quite stable across a very large area. Okay, and very, very quick introduction. So I'm going to talk more about this in later episodes, later sort of videos, because the noun classification is very, very complicated. One of the features of this language is that almost every adjective has to change its form depending on the shape, whether the object is alive or not alive, whether the size and all these, they have different criteria to describe them. There's something like 177 different noun classes. So every noun has to be divided, has to be added into a specific class. And you have to change the words, like for how many, the words for adjectives, words for this and that. All that has to change, and numbers will have different forms depending on what is being counted, the shape, the size, whether it's a man, woman, child, different words. So I give an example. How many men are there? How many men is te vila tawau. So vila means how many, and that's related to piro in Javanese, vila. So te is a marker for men, male human beings. Te vila tawau, how many men? So tau is one man, tawau is many men. So tao in Tagalog, same word. Na vila vivila. Okay, na vila is how many women. So vivila, women, it's related to wahine, fafine in Polynesian language, babae in Tagalog, vivila. Na vila is how many women. Interesting enough, the word na also appears in animal names, the words for animals. Na, so women, animals, planets, stars, the moon, all these natural things, phenomena are feminine. Interesting. Canoes, wooden objects, so ke vila waga. So ke vila means how many? Canoe, wooden objects. If it's trees, it's buah vila kai. You can see the relationship. So the word buah is more like, comes from, it sounds a lot like buah in Malay, the word for fruit. So it's used for, it became the counter for trees. Kai is the word for tree, and it's related to kayu in Malay. Okay. And then, kue vila bagula. Kue vila bagula means how many gardens. So kue is is a marker for inanimate objects. And there are lots and lots of the liku vila liku, how many yam houses. A yam house is a special building, ceremonial building built for keeping yams, storing, which is one of the main food sources and very important in the social structure of the Trobrian Islands, and also many parts of New Guinea as well. So this is another interesting thing we're looking at. Okay, so let's be very quickly. A feature of the verbs, you can recognize some very common features, is that the verb normally does not change form. So mwasawa is to play. Amwasawa is I play. So the A marker means I. Kumwasawa means you play. Imwasawa, mwasawa means he or she plays. The E and A are not gender markers. They're just, there's some variation. Some people say E, some people say A, but it's the same thing. Tamwasawa is we play. So that's we and you. So it's like the two of us. That's like kita in Malay. Kamwasawa is like ka, kami. So aku, kau. You can see the relationship, the Austronesian origins. If you want to make it plural, more than two people, then you put a si at the end. So tamwasawasi, kamwasawasi, kumwasawasi. Okay. And, of course, imwasawasi or emwasawasi, they play. All right. The number system, for counting, if you don't have an object, then you say something like, tala, you, tolu, vasi. Lima. So the word for 5 is lima, as usual. The word for, I think 6 is limatala, 5-1. 5-2, limayu, 5-2 is 7. 5-3, limatolu, that's 8. 5-4, limavasi is, of course, 9. And 10, I think they say something like, luotala or something. That's another specific word. So, based on 5, and numbers higher than 5 are 5 plus 1 plus 2 plus 3. That's how they count. Okay? Right. I think that's it. A very short introduction. We'll talk more about the grammar of this language later on, and more about different types of phonology. I'm also going to do a series on Taiwanese languages and how they're related to other Austronesian languages, and how the relationship between them, different types of grammar, the alignment system in Taiwan versus in the Philippines, languages like Kilivila that have spoken in Oceania, very, very small, isolated regions that people don't know about. Very, very fascinating areas. This is one of the most diverse diverse areas, linguistically speaking, in the world. Papua New Guinea, I mean, you've got Austronesian languages and other non-Austronesian languages, and that's why the Austronesian languages there are quite exotic. They've been influenced by, for example, the Papuan languages. Okay? Right, I think I'm done for today. I'll be back very soon, so stay tuned.